Bring it to the subject of this discussion about existing stock and retrofitting. A lot of the landfill actually filled by construction materials, especially from pulling down existing buildings. When the housing authority thinks about redevelopment or refitting, how does it consider the different options and financially, politically, etc.?
Thanks, George. It's a very useful and very big question. Nowadays, we adopt a policy whereby if we can retrofit and we can maintain the buildings for another, say, 15 years, we will not demolish them. So first is to reduce demolition waste by keeping the existing stock. And if it can be maintained, revitalized, we reuse them. So we will reduce the pressure on the landfills. And secondly, for new builds, we'll try to balance the cut and fill if possible. So again, that can reduce the pressure on the landfills. And then we encourage the sorting of waste at source, be it for our construction sites or our tenants. If they can sort the waste, some of these waste can be regenerated into useful materials. So we try to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So it's all this in a concept which is put into practice. Thank you.
What we've done in Australia is two things. One, we do a lot of site visits of existing buildings that have been greened. And so that's really a great way of educating both tenants and the industry of the opportunity. So in our own office space, it's an existing building that we've done a retrofit. And the building, GPT, that's been mentioned, literally brings through all its tenants through our space to see what can be done. In waste, under Green Star, you get credits for the amount of waste that you recycle when you're either demolishing a building, or even an existing building fit out. And we're getting up to 95% of recycling of waste. And the industry is now just trained. Even though all buildings might not get rated, the industry, it's changed the way the industry think in Australia. And you can go onto a site and see everything neatly in piles that will be recycled. So I think that's where the importance of voluntary measures like BEAM in Hong Kong and Green Star and others like LEAD, it does change the way that contractors think, and it has an impact on the use of waste. And Chris is right, the landfill levy has made them very conscious of recycling. And I'll just give this to Nikki. I think she has an answer too.
Thank you. No, that was really interesting to hear that. I was just going to say that London's trying to emulate some other cities that recycle. You know, you get levels in some cities of up to sort of 80, 90% of construction waste being recycled. But we've had to, in order for it to be sustainable and not have lorries taking all the material out and then, you know, digging up gravel pits outside London and bringing everything back in, we've been safeguarding our wharves along the river, which of course are very low, they're low value, but they of course have massive hope value for anyone who wants to build on the river with views. So we've had to safeguard these wharves so that we can actually bring the construction waste to the wharves by barge, which is sustainable, and then recycle it, and then it can go to the various building sites. So I just wanted to mention that because in fact we have this high landfill tax, so exactly the same issue. But we're also looking at higher levels of recycling. London's not that good at recycling. We're trying to get better and stimulate a whole new industrial sector from recycling, which I think is one of the great prizes. But with what's left, like Sydney, we're trying through anaerobic digestion to produce biogas from our organic waste, and looking for, it's not easy, but looking for gasification technologies. Plasma arc's a good one, which have very little digest and produce a very good methane or syngas. And you can use that for fuel cells. You can turn it into a liquid fuel for your cars. You can use sewage, of course, to produce biogas and put that into your cars as well. That's all very virtuous. And this way anyway, I'm just trying to show the integration of technologies, but you can actually produce gas, and exactly as was being said, you can replace, in the end, natural gas with your combined heat power power and cooling. So we're aiming for we're a long way behind other cities, but we're aiming for that way of making sure that hardly any of our waste will go to landfill.
Comment, questions?
This is William from WWF Hong Kong. Maybe I can share some ideas how to make use of the building design to address waste problem, especially food waste in Hong Kong, because we have 3,700 tons of food waste generated each day. Okay, so I think last time I visited Netherlands, although it's an idea stage, but I think what they have designed for the building, let's say for the street, they have free recycle bin, and all this waste will be automatically transferred, to the underground and to the kind of mechanism for further processing. So again, they also propose a kind of similar system for building. Within your home, you can have this kind of transfer system to reclassify all your waste and transfer to a destination for further processing. As we can learn from like Taiwan, for processing this kind of food waste for composting, they earn 0.6 billion Hong Kong dollar per year. As mentioned, producing biogas for energy generation, feedstock for pig, as well as fertilizer for organic farming. So I think it's a win-win situation. We may pay attention to the new building design, how to do this. Okay, back to the behavioral change topic. I think basically that's the big problem that we need to overcome. Do you know what kind of food should be separate? How to reduce the waste from the source, how to separate all this food waste becomes a challenge, because I don't think we have much idea about this.
So another question to the back.
I was just going to ask the presenter from Sydney, like you've mentioned a couple of times about voluntary measures in Australia. I just wonder if cities are just starting new. Obviously, voluntary measures may not work. And when do you use mandatory? And what do you use mandatory? Or in your experience, when do you transition from one to the other? Or maybe you still use both, but which one works better where, from your experience, or maybe even Hong Kong can share?
That's a tough question, of course. Look, I think the major reason that Australia has taken a voluntary approach is because we have a fairly highly educated and motivated building sector, and that's also thanks to organisations like the Green Building Council and also the New South Wales State Government as well, doing a lot of education. And when you have that kind of an environment, I think those voluntary kind of measures, those market mechanisms work best. Maybe in environments where the market is maybe not so sophisticated, setting some of those minimum standards to really get that level of understanding and education up first of all could be a way to approach that. And then it's a really you need to then see the progress and then either make the decision for yourself whether you decide to then go for more a market-based mechanism because you feel that the industry then has the capacity to deliver on a market-based mechanism, or whether you think actually you're only going to get the outcome if you regulate. And look, each city is different, and I think you can see from the neighbours example that there was actually a market mechanism. We were almost at 50% of buildings being rated under neighbours before they actually brought in a mandatory reporting mechanism at point of sale. So they've kind of, I suppose, then added the regulation thereafter, and there's been very little pushback from the industry, obviously, because there's been a lot of understanding of that in the first place.